Hello and welcome to In the Lab. Now I'm Mr. Walker and today this is my guest presenter.
Hello, my name is Edward, I'm from 8 Normandy and hand over to Mr. Walker.
Excellent stuff. So we are going to be doing another question and answer video. We've had lots of questions and today we're going to get straight into question number 1. Over to you, Edward.
So, what happens if you eat something radioactive?
This is a question from our Burning Questions board. Remember, you can add them onto the board. Go to the science corridor, write them on a note, put them into the board. What was the question again?
What happens if you eat something radioactive?
Eat something radioactive. Well, do you know what? You are eating radioactive stuff every single day because pretty much everything is radioactive, but to a very, very small degree. But what happens if you eat something that is terribly radioactive, that's damaging? What do you reckon? Tell us what you think.
So, when you eat something radioactive, it will start to intoxicate your blood because radiation creates poisons. So it will slowly kill you from the inside out. Okay,
interesting stuff. I like it. Well, I don't like the effects, but I like the answer. Let me tell you this though. There are some foods that are a little bit more radioactive than others. Brazil nuts are quite radioactive, and so are bananas. Now, a picture is coming up on the screen that you can see, and it shows you that if you have one banana, then you have 0.1 microsieverts of radiation. Now, a microsievert is just a way of measuring the amount of radiation. So you can see on this picture that that's not actually very bad, because 2.7 sieverts is the standard background radiation that you would have in a year. 0.1 microsieverts is absolutely tiny, so you need thousands of bananas to have the usual amount of background radiation. That means the amount of radiation that you're affected by just by you and me walking around on the planet. It's hitting us from space and from all the rocks in the earth all the time. Now you might notice on there it also says right at the bottom you need to have 50 million bananas before the radioactivity in the bananas actually kills you. So a lethal dose is massive. Do you think you can manage 50 million bananas?
No, but Donkey Kong would.
Donkey Kong good. Should we try it in a future video?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to try it. Well, maybe we will, maybe on health grounds we won't, because it would actually kill Edward if he could eat 50 million bananas. Probably because of the sugar before anything else. But that's bananas. Basically, you don't have to worry about your food. What would happen? Is Edward right if we were to have something really dangerous like an alpha or a beta or a gamma source of radiation that's really, really, really damaging, really dangerous? Is he right? Yes, he is. It is dangerous. It is toxic to you. It would damage you as you ate it. Do you know what it would damage specifically? Putting you on the spot here, Edward. What do you reckon? You mentioned the blood. It would damage the blood. It would kill the white blood cells because it damages your bone marrow. Anything else?
The liver?
It would damage the liver. Anything else?
Your heart?
It would damage the heart. Anything else? Basically, he can name anything here. What else would it damage?
Your foot bones.
Your foot bones. It would damage every part of you, specifically the stuff near the digestive system, liver and heart. But it would damage all of your body because your blood travels everywhere and the radiation would be also carried everywhere. So yeah, it wouldn't be nice. It damages the DNA in your cells as well, so it causes mutations and the cells would replicate without control. And what's that called? Oh, I think some of you at home might know the answer. It begins with C, often called the big C. It's called cancer. That's the one. It gives you cancer. So all sorts of dangerous and horrible effects with radioactivity. Well, shall we have a nicer question? Edward, question number 2.
How is coal made?
How is coal made? I'm going to go over to you. What do you think? How's it made?
So as the rock cycle goes on, sediments are carried down mountains and compressed underwater. Then they travel back down into the earth, and then they rise up through tectonic plates.
Oh, I see. So you're talking about the rock cycle here. Interesting. And what kind of rock is coal?
A sedimentary rock.
And here's a picture on screen in case you're not sure what coal looks for. This is coal. Edward's right, it's a sedimentary rock. Living material that gets squashed and compressed at the bottom of a riverbed first forms something called peat, which you can burn, but then when it's squashed even more and there's lots of fine layers pushed together, you get coal. It's very carbon rich, and this is what we like to burn. Now here's a picture of that whole process happening, of the pressure occurring and the sedimentary rock called coal forming. Now Edward, what happens if we get coal and we compress it even more? When it gets pushed further down into the earth, squashed and squashed, heat and pressure, what does it make?
Lava.
Not quite, not quite. Rocks would form that, but actually we get a mineral that's formed. When we squash coal enough, we get a specific mineral. It's transparent, it's often priceless, and people might wear them on jewellery, on their rings, maybe on bracelets. Begins with D.
A diamond.
Excellent stuff! It's a diamond. That's how you get diamond, when you squash it. It's an ultra compressed piece of coal. And here's a picture of a diamond if you would like to see it. There we go. We have got diamond. We've gone all the way from coal down to diamond. So that's how coal is made. And then we dig it up, and less nowadays, but we can still burn it for the heat it gives off. Question number 3, Edward. What have we got?
What are some other poisonous gases than carbon monoxide?
Oh yes. And that was a burning question, wasn't it? So who's that from?
Izzy Gartside in 9 Tudor.
Oh, thank you very much, Izzy. Question from Izzy there. Do you know any more poisonous gases? Can you think of any?
Well, there's methane.
Methane. Well, if there's enough methane in the air, we are suffocated because we need oxygen at the level that it is now, about 20%. If there's not as much oxygen, if we release lots of methane, oh dear, we are going to die. But it's not strictly a poisonous gas in the same sense. You see, you can breathe in a little bit of methane and it's not really going to harm you, you just breathe it back out again. So anything that you'd breathe in and it would damage you, what do you think? Any other ideas? He's thinking. Can you hear the cogs whirling? I can. Shall I tell you?
Go on then.
Go on then. I'll tell you, there's quite a few, and you might have heard of these. Chlorine is one gas that is poisonous. Now, here is a picture of a chlorine gas cloud that was released. This was actually a test to see what would happen on the environment. And as you can see, it's a horrible yellowy, slightly greeny gas cloud that spreads out. Used to be used in the First World War. It was called mustard gas. And they used to throw it on the enemies and it would cause them to choke and they would literally cough up their lungs. It was horrible stuff. It was banned. So you're not allowed to use it in wars because it is that bad. Now there's another one, another poisonous gas. You might have heard of this. It's called sulfur dioxide. Now sometimes we make it in the lab in small quantities, and that's okay if there's only a tiny little bit. But if you get a huge cloud of it, and pollution contains a lot of sulfur dioxide out of factories and sometimes out of cars and all kinds of processes, it's released into the air. Do you know what sulfur dioxide can cause in the air? I'm putting Edward on the spot here. It's a really tough one. I'm going to give you some clues. It reacts with the water and it makes sulfuric acid, and that water rains down on the earth. Do you know what that's called? Sulfuric acid, and it rains. There's a clue there. Sulfuric acid.
Acidic rain.
Oh, you're so close! The official term is acid rain. You've got it. And there's a picture on the screen now of what can happen to a forest that has had acid rain on it. It looks like a fire has swept through the whole forest. It's actually just acid rain. It contains sulfuric acid and it's damaging to the forest, it's damaging to people, it's damaging to all sorts of things. Now there's a third one I'm going to tell you about. It's called hydrogen cyanide. Now that is another one that is really horrible. You might have heard in murder mysteries cyanide being used. Hydrogen cyanide is a gas, very similar, and if you breathe that in, you would choke, you would feel all of your respiratory system contracting and you wouldn't be able to breathe. Now that's just 3. There's loads of them out there. Don't go hunting for them because they don't do you any good at all, and really don't try and produce them. If you're going to ever make them in a job, it has to be done under really controlled conditions. So don't ever try and make anything that you know is dangerous if you're not being paid for it and you're not following the safety precautions. So we've had 3 questions today. Now I've got another question for you. I've given you so many questions, Edward, but are you ready for the killer question? It was also handed in as a burning question. How many moons are there in our solar system in total? What do you think?
Earth has 1.
Yes.
Mars has 2, so that's 3.
He's doing well.
There's about 15 Saturn,
Okay.
so that's about 53.
Right.
And then there's around 200 in Jupiter, so between 250 and 350.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Interesting, yes. So between 250, 350. The answer is 290. So that range was correct. And to be honest, that upper range is probably closer because we haven't discovered them all yet. We keep discovering them every year. And in fact, Saturn keeps making more moons. They're like little moon babies. They're coming out of the rings of Saturn and they detach and they make actual moons. So very soon, 350 will be the correct answer, maybe even more. Okay, we have finished our questions for today. So thank you very much for tuning in and thank you, Edward, as well. Bye for now.
Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Ding ding ding.
Like
And subscribe.